Welcome to the SBR NHL Double Play, the Play of the Day video for Saturday, November 16th, sponsored by and powered by, presented by, whatever word you want to use, sportsbookreview.com. I'm joined by Adam Booth as we are here every Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 3 days a week with our SBR NHL Double Play video. Those 3 days, why? Because they're the biggest 3 days of the NHL week. They're always the most amount of games. And if you think we've had a lot of large slates to choose from before, we haven't seen anything until today. 15 games. This is the single biggest NHL card we've had all season. 15 games to choose from.
Well, it can't get any bigger. I mean, we got 31 teams in the league. 30 playing in a night is all you could see.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it is a busy night. If you're a hockey fan, hockey bettor, certainly you're going to be tuned in and watching a lot of these games. Of course, this is a bit of a more heavily hyped hockey night in Canada tonight due to the Don Cherry situation. We won't go into too much detail there, but obviously people
let's stay away from that one.
How they're going to work that out tonight, so that'll be interesting to tune in, see how they treat that first Saturday without Don Cherry in the house.
Have they announced a replacement, or they just?
They haven't. They're keeping it under wraps. We know Ron will be there. He's going to say something. He's going to address the matter on the broadcast. He's going to address the issue, and then on we go.
It's a changing of the guard to see who's going to come back on next. Actually, it's kind of interesting in Canadian cultural history.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you there. It'll be fascinating to see what direction they end up going in. Speaking of directions we end up going in, what directions have Adam and I gone in for our play of the day? Well, we'll start with Adam first. As you see, 11-6 plus 4.61 units with his plays in these videos on the season. He's going to Washington and Boston, a great Eastern Conference matchup taking place tonight. Again, courtesy of SBRodds.com. Make sure you're checking out SBRodds.com every day when you're placing your bets so that you get the best line and price available with each wager you make. We've got Boston minus 135 to minus 140 home favorites, total 6.5, shaded to the under. Back-to-back situation for both teams. Boston on the winning side of their front end of the back-to-back over the injury-depleted Toronto Maple Leafs, who lost another forward in that game last night, Trevor Moore, and they're already without Kerfoot and Marner. So it's just a war of attrition now on the forward group for the Leafs. Boston doing what they like to do a lot, and that's beat the Toronto Maple Leafs. They did that again last night. How about Washington? End up losing 5-2 to the Montreal Canadiens. Great job by the Canadiens. Ilya Samsonov has really not gotten the job done and been consistent in net for the Capitals. He's had some rough starts as of late. I cashed a ticket with the over in that game. It barely got there, but it got there after a slow start in that one. Montreal, big underdog winner, 5-2, and all of a sudden the Capitals now off a loss. And tell you what, if you bet the Capitals off a loss, you're usually doing pretty good this season. They've avoided extended losing streaks in a big way. I believe that's the direction Adam's going with his play. Adam, tell us about it.
Yeah. So I in my play of the day for these videos, I also always have an article to supplement it. So you can always check up if you wanted some further detail. But I commented on, we have two of the best teams in the league, the entire NHL. 3 weeks ago, I had Boston at the top of my rankings, and I think most people did. They looked excellent. But coming after that Ottawa Senators victory, 2 weeks ago, I think it was, I had Boston Puckline against the Senators. They won, kind of a crazy one. But for most of that second period, that was the Senators game. And then we saw Boston beat Pittsburgh 6-4. Then they took a 4-game slide before winning last night in Toronto. Through these last 6 games, this is not the same Boston team that we saw through most of September. And this happens, that teams will just, it's never a constant sort of valley to peak through a season. It's always ups and downs. And I don't mean that in the sort of cliche fashion. I mean that literally teams will find form up and down throughout the season, just based on injuries, the scheduling, just energy level, if they went out drinking, these things, it's all part of being a professional athlete, and it's the reality. And so teams will just, peak and dive. And so the Boston Bruins are not the same team that they were in September. That said, they should be a slight favorite today. However, I have the Capitals at 52% to win the game today. And I love that because what do we see? We see them at it was plus 126 when I got it 2 hours ago. And let me just check right now over at sbrodds.com. They are sitting at best prices for my books, plus 123 at Bet Online and also at 5 Dimes. But you can take that all the way down to 2.0 here. Washington is the value play, but they are undervalued because of what happened yesterday. Otherwise, we still have the hottest offense in the NHL. I mean, they were limited to 2 last night, but Montreal played the good game. I mean, they shut them down in the first 10 when Washington had a bit of momentum, then took over for a period and a half. And then we kind of saw it back and forth through the third, but Montreal was the better team last night. But Washington is still 9-2 on the road. I'm not concerned about them on a back-to-back. Boston is obviously returning from Toronto. These aren't long distances to go. And I just have, I mean, it's a fairly obvious play for me. I can't really rationalize going with Boston. This has nothing to do with them losing 4 in a row recently, but their numbers are not as good through November as they were through October. So I don't know, Ian. There's not too much to say here. As far as goaltending, it's fairly even. I think they had Samsonov in yesterday. So I think Holtby, they didn't pull him, right? I didn't even watch the game.
I don't believe
I
they
don't
did,
watch that much.
but I would expect it'll be Braden Holtby tonight.
Yeah. So, and I think
Braden Holtby and Jarro Halak are the goalies.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so again, but I don't expect either team to have much of an edge in terms of goaltending here. The numbers are not that different throughout the season for both. If we look over like the power play numbers, Boston has the better power play. Capitals have a slightly better penalty kill. The save percentage is better for Boston overall in the season, both 5-on-5 and for all the metrics. So it's not a matter of Boston not being able to win this game today, but I'm not afraid. This is always my approach. I'm not afraid to get involved in what many might call a coin flip when we're getting the coin flip at plus 120. So, it was the first thing I hit this morning, and I have had no reservations about it. I'm also on the Capitals team total over, which those team totals always move quicker than the money lines, and they move permanently. So if you would like to join me on the Caps team total, definitely put that in now. Because I think getting the Capitals at 2.5 is going to just over a whole season. That's just a number you're always going to want to take if you can get it. So, yeah. What do you think about that, Ian?
Other than the Philly game, it's been 3 goals or more, I believe, in 16 of their last 17 games for this Washington.
But
so there you go.
And the other point about I look back on that, I think Washington was had 3.5 expected goals for that game, though. So even though it was a 2-1 overtime or whatever, 2-1 shootout, something like that. In regulation, Capitals, if you replay that game again and again, Hart was outstanding that game. He had some of those highlight reel, like Hasek, like rolling on the back. How does he do the splits and get across for that? It's one of those where you replay it again and again. The Capitals probably still get 3 or 4 goals. So I'm going to go with the Boston defense has not been what it was again in October, and I think Krug is still out he was out last night, so I expect him to be out for a little bit here, and that's an issue. I mean, on that second goal, the Leafs' second goal in the third period there, Chara and McAvoy, man, was there some bad communication there. The whole Boston team just shuffled across to, I think it was, who was it, Kapanen, and he just, that's what happens when you start playing with different line mates and stuff like that, and you're shuffling around, you're fatigued because one of your big D men is out. So we have a healthy Capitals team. We have a Capitals team off an embarrassing home loss. They're a good road team. They've got a good offense. I'm expecting goals. I'm also on the full game over, which I think was like even money. So yeah, that's my play. Any criticisms of that, Ian?
No, not at all. I completely agree. I would only bet
Okay.
Washington at that price, and they're the much healthier team. You look at these guys like Vakanainen and Clifton, and these guys that are filling in for Krug, and now all of a sudden they got to play back-to-back nights. They're not used to that. These depth forwards, and remember they're banged up at the forward position too. DeBrusk out, Richie out, Backus out, Carson Kuhlman out. So all of a sudden, Trent Frederick, who's just got called up, he's got to be playing back-to-back nights, and again, not something he's accustomed to is at the NHL level. So they're a healthier team. It's a better spot. You've got Boston off a big win against a team they got history with. Now coming back home, maybe they exhale. Whereas Washington, I expect them to pull up their bootstraps after getting drubbed by Montreal last night, 5-2. So I agree with everything. Washington, Moneyline, Washington team total. And how can you not bet another Washington full game over? I've only been doing that for like the last month every game. So I wouldn't argue with that either. My play is going to be Colorado, Vancouver, late night action on the West Coast, courtesy of SBRodds.com. We've got Vancouver minus 140 to minus 145 as home favorites, total 6 shaded to the over. And I'm glad we're doing this show before this total hits 6.5 everywhere, because it looks like it's going there right now, and I agree with that move. I'm on the over 6 here. I got minus 125 in this game. This is a fade of Adam Werner, essentially, although there is some chatter that Philip Grubauer has skated the last few days in practice for the Avalanche. There is a chance they get Philip Grubauer, their number one goalie, back, and if he does start for the Avalanche, I still like this play. In fact, I might even like it more.
Yeah,
I always like going
is
against goalies in their first start back, a long, lengthy layoff, an extended absence. They're not usually that sharp. I would not expect Philip Grubauer to bring his absolute best game to the table if he does indeed return to the net for Colorado against the Vancouver team that's been scoring goals in bunches at home in particular. You see their goals per game. It goes up at home at Rogers Arena there in Vancouver. They've done a great job scoring goals. Hell, they even pulled Dallas into going over the total, and that's hard to do with that Dallas Stars team in that last game, and they even got an over, a rare over out of the Dallas Stars in that game. Before that, the Vancouver-Nashville game was 5-3 Canucks. That game flies over the total. Just a team that's trended over at home, that scored more goals at home, that the power play's been good at home. You look at Colorado, concerns about either netminder tonight. Werner, again, he had that stand on his head effort coming in cold off the bench for an injured Pavel Francouz against Winnipeg. Now, I've seen that happen so many times before. This journeyman goalie steps in out of nowhere, third goalie on the Colorado depth chart, and he just absolutely bamboozles Winnipeg. Can't carry it over to the next start, though. We see this time and time again. He gets blasted by Edmonton, and the Oilers hammer the Avalanche in his very next start.
One of my other plays today involves the Oilers, and I just said I just can't get them right at the moment. And watching Colorado went up 1-0 in that game against Edmonton, and then I just watched like 4 of the Oilers' next 7 shots or something crazy go in. McDavid puts up 2 goals and 2 assists, and it's like, well, I always appreciate when I'm going to lose the game if it could just be done in the first period. Just don't make me think anything more about it. But it was true. It was like a complete night and day from his previous performance.
And Colorado's offense, that's the other part of this equation. They've stepped up the last 3 or 4 games. Remember, they had really struggled to put the puck in the net on the initial 4 or 5
games when
McKinnon, when Landeskog and Rantanen were injured. But now you see Jonas Donskoy playing on the top line with Nate McKinnon. He's done a really nice job on that top line. Burakovsky, Kadri, JT Compher line has really produced and chipped in offensively of late for this team as well. So now they're starting to get some of that depth scoring showing up for Colorado in the last few games that they've played, which is a good sign. And I think they'll be able to find the back of the net. And I certainly think Vancouver will as well in this one. I think it sets up for getting at least 6, if not more, hopefully more goals, but at least 6 to ensure the push. But I think we get over that total, something like 4-3, 5-3, 5-2, something similar to what we saw with Vancouver-Nashville earlier this week. So Colorado, Vancouver, over 6, minus 125 was my play of the day. If you're wondering what else I considered, because it was really close, it was a thin line, razor thin margin between going with this play and the other 2 I considered Rangers, Panthers over 6.5, but it's minus 135. It's pretty heavily juiced. It's rightfully so, in my opinion, that it's juiced that way. But I decided I'd pass on that. I did give that heavy consideration as well as Toronto, because I just get that sense that Pittsburgh hasn't looked all that great with Crosby Letang and Hornquist out these last couple of games. I know Toronto's banged up beyond belief, but something tells me they dig in hard defensively tonight and try to win this game for this young Finn that's making his NHL debut in net for them. That would be Kazimir Kaskasuo, who's going to be in net for the Leafs, making his NHL debut. But boy, it is tough betting Toronto, and it's right now, and it's tough betting Toronto on the second night of back-to-backs. This has been a bad situation for them. They're 0-5 on the second night of back-to-backs this season, so that was enough for me to drop Toronto from play of the day consideration. So for me, Colorado, Vancouver over 6 -125, and Adams play of the day, Washington +126.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working. I was up till 3 a.m. last night working on some esports stuff so that I would have my card ready by the time the show started. But it always goes like this. Saturdays are just so hectic that I'm still working my way down. So I'm just about done. Most of the Eastern Conference starts, the early game starts, which there's quite a few today, which is always nice for someone living in England because normally the games don't start till midnight, and it's just a pain in my ass to stay up.
That's great. I know you've got some 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. England time games
exactly
taking place today. So that's always a bonus for our friends like Adam that are across the pond. All right, that'll wrap it up. Thanks to everyone for tuning in to our Saturday edition, November 16th Play of the Day video. We're back on Tuesday, November 19th, 10:15 a.m. Eastern Time with our next edition of the SBR NHL Double Play of the Day video. For Adam Booth, I'm Ian Cameron. Good luck this Saturday with your NHL wagers, and we'll see you again on Tuesday.